Sehr geehrte Şampiyonluk I always get goosebumps when I'm listening to that, and of course I'm totally faking it because we didn't just hear that intro, but I know you just did, so don't you just love that? Anyway, welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast, episode 75. We're just 25 short from getting to that magical 100 number, and joining me today is Kartal Ogur of TF News 1923, if I have it correct, on Twitter. Kartal, that's your new project, right?
Yeah, that's my new project. It's just calling Turkish football.
Yeah.
All the teams. I also do help out Karen on Beşiktaş International as well. It's just it's all about kind of trying to globalise this passion we have for Turkish football. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of objective that we have here.
Yeah, basically, an account definitely worth following. I've been following them for since they launched. When was that? Like 2-3 weeks ago.
End of May. So It's just been over a month now.
Yeah, so almost up to 600 followers right now, and you guys know the types of accounts, like our account, Beşiktaş International or Beşiktaş Talk, those types of accounts. Basically, that's what these guys are doing, but they're doing that for all the clubs. So you're not just getting all the Beşiktaş news, you're getting all the Fenerbahçe, Galatasaray, and most of the Turkish football news. It's a really great account. I highly recommend following them. It's at TF News 1923 on Twitter. I don't think you'll regret following them, as long as they don't slip into your DMs. But great account, guys, so definitely give them a follow. But we're here to talk solely about Beşiktaş today, of course, and it's been a couple of weeks since we've last had an episode. Unfortunately, Sinan has been extremely busy. It's been very difficult to line up schedules. Initially, we didn't really want to do an episode with no news, and to be quite frank, in the last 2 weeks, nothing big has really happened. There's not been a signing. There's not been a major announcement in regards to a sponsorship deal, or the new shirts aren't out yet. It's been 3 pretty quiet weeks when it comes to Beşiktaş fans, apart from the Tyler Boyd transfer saga that's kind of been heating up. That's been dragging on a little bit, so we'll get into that. But before we do, the first noteworthy point, I think, is the guys at Beşiktaş France, which of course our friend Aurélien Çelik is part of. They reported a couple of weeks ago that Vodafone would not be returning as the main sponsor on our kits this season, and there hasn't been any confirmation on that. But today there wasn't a rumor saying that Bahçeşehir Koleji will become the new main sponsor of Beşiktaş. Unconfirmed, and of course they already are sponsors for our shorts, which was a sponsorship deal for 2 years that was signed just back in February of this year. So it would be kind of weird to have them on both our shorts and our shirt. Of course, the owner, or how should I put it, this is like the biggest private school in Turkey, if I'm not mistaken, and the I don't know how you call it, the rector or the dean or the head of the school basically is of course a Beşiktaş fan. His name eludes me right now, Yücel, but his first name eludes me. But of course he famously helped on the Shinji Kagawa deal, and he was last week, at least he was in Japan, reportedly to talk to Shinji Kagawa as well for returning for next season. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Vodafone out, Bahçeşehir Koleji in. Kartal. That's you said it off air. It's quite a step down if that's actually the case in terms of reputation, in terms of just overall brand recognition for our main sponsor.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think it's going to be a bit lower as well, the offer that they've gave Beşiktaş to be the shirt sponsor. And obviously, when you play in Europe, like, people just be wondering, like, what is Bahçeşehir Koleji? You know what I mean? Like, it's not recognised at all. Whereas Vodafone, everyone sees that, they recognise it straight away. It kind of I don't know if this is really that important, but it gives us more of a big club feel, if you know what I mean. And people say, oh, they must be a big deal if they get Vodafone on their shirt, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that your main sponsor isn't just one of the major sources of income you have. It's also kind of how you present your brand towards the world. And if you have a main sponsor like Vodafone on your shirt, like you said, it does put some weight, and it does show people that you're serious. And then if you have like Bachi, with all due respect, Başakşehir Koleji, I mean, I'm sure it's in Turkey, it's pretty respected and all that, because it's of course the biggest private school in Turkey supposedly. But I mean, outside of Turkey, nobody will know that. Nobody will recognize it, and it just looks a little weird. And at the end of the day, I mean, you know, if once we replay with whatever on our shirt for a couple of weeks, it'll be fine, I think. But I don't know. I do know some friends of mine, and I myself, when we had Kola Turka on our shirts back in the day. Personally, I kind of liked it. I thought the font was fine and all that, but you know, there was just so much ridicule that we went through here in Europe. From our friends when you wore a shirt with Kola Turka on it. You don't get that when you have Vodafone on it. I don't know if it's going to be the same thing with Başakşehir here, but I can already imagine people saying, oh, what? I thought Fenerbahce were your rivals. I mean, just having that word Bahçe on there is enough, I think, to cause some confusion. I just think it's, in terms of, in that respect, I think it's a bad choice if we end up going with them as our main sponsor. I think they should really try and retain Vodafone, but I don't know what the situation is with Vodafone, how successful they've been in Turkey. As we know, that there's a lot of chauvinism involved when it comes to Turks selecting whatever, you know, like they're gonna go with Turk Telecom before they're gonna go with a Vodafone, I think. And there's been foreign countries trying to break into the Turkish market and having failed at it. I don't know how successful Vodafone have been at it. Maybe it's just for them that it's not been a massive success. They expected a bigger return on it, and they're not willing to pump 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million a year into Beşiktaş anymore for shirt sponsorship. I don't know what the deal is there, but I'm sure if they still were willing to pay top dollar, that they would have just renewed. But thus far, that hasn't happened, and I don't know. I'm kind of hoping this Başakşehir thing is a hoax, but yeah, I don't think it is. I think it might actually be true.
Seems it's for real, man. It's quite funny how you're talking about how you get slagged off. That's someone taking the mick out of you for Kola Turka, because I've never really had that problem in Scotland, because in Scotland it's all betting companies and alcohol companies that do the sponsors. So I've always been like them. Oh, we've got these big brands, Toyota, Vodafone, to my friends. But we've got Terence Lager as your sponsor. So I've always kind of had the bragging rights in that regard, but sadly that'll probably end this year if we end up with Başakşehir Koleji as our sponsor.
Yeah, and I saw you mention something of at least our shirts will look better or something, but I actually really like the look of Vodafone on our shirts.
I like Vodafone as well, man. I think it looks good. It's not like that. It's not too big either. Because I think it's seeing that it's a huge sponsor on the front. It kind of ruins the shot. But I think the point I was making about the shirts will look better as if we don't have any kind of chest sponsor. Obviously, from a financial perspective, that wouldn't be as beneficial. But if we had no front sponsor, I'd say the aesthetic of the shirt would be nicer. I don't know if you agree with that, but
I think it looks a little weird on a club shirt to not have a sponsor on there. I always thought it was a little weird that Fenerbahce, you know, for a couple seasons didn't have a sponsor, and it just makes you look like a. I think it's not a good sign. It looks like either you, well, you know, Fenerbahce always said, or the fans at least always said, well, you know, the real estate on our shirt is just too valuable, and we're not willing to just sell it to anyone. Which I get, but when you're in a position like our clubs are in right now, where you can't say no to money, I think going into a season without a main shirt sponsor is a poor choice. But yeah, in terms of aesthetics, I don't know. I'm so used to seeing sponsors on shirts. It's kind of weird for me to not see a sponsor there. Because you know, with the national team, at least you have the shirt number on the front of your shirt. But without anything on there, it just looks so empty. But yeah. we'll have to wait and see. Vodafone might still come through, maybe another deal. But for me, if there's gonna be any Turkish sponsor, the only one that I would really be happy about is Beko. And I doubt that's gonna happen because, of course, Ali Koç is now fully integrated in Fenerbahce as their president. Beko is sponsoring their basketball team, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's it's unfortunate because I think Beko is synonymous with Beşiktaş, but we still have them on the back of our shirts, I think, though, right? So, but
just if Ali Koç's dad brought him up properly, you know what I mean? Like, because his dad, obviously, Rami Koç, is a huge Beşiktaş fan. I think what actually happened is, obviously, his dad was very busy. Rami Koç was always a very busy man, you know what I mean? Like, dealing with that in a huge international business. So I think Ali Koç was actually influenced by his nanny, and that's how he became a Fenerbahce fan.
Who knows?
That's the story I've heard anyway.
Who knows? Might very well be true.
Yeah.
Curse that nanny.
Yeah.
But let's dig into some more fun news, transfer talk. The biggest news the last couple of weeks has really been Tyler Boyd, the newly crowned U.S. international right winger. Of course, he spent the past 6 months out on loan at Ankaragücü. Was very impressive. Scored 6 goals, gave 4 assists, if I'm not mistaken. Was just instrumental in them staying up. And really impressed. Kind of looks a little bit like a younger version of Edin Visca. But he's been...
Looks like him as well.
Yeah, he works like him. It's similar
and
style.
He looks like him. He looks like him as well.
Looks like him, yeah. He kind of looks like him too. But he's a hard worker, good player. We've seen it at least at Ankaragücü. He's doing well for himself right now as well with the US at the Gold Cup. So it's a player Beşiktaş are very interested in right now. It seems that Tyler Boyd's kind of the number one priority for Beşiktaş right now in terms of the transfer market. Of course, there's other positions that Beşiktaş are going to be looking to fill, but it looks like the main focus is on Boyd right now. And of course, he's still owned by Portuguese club Vitória Guimarães, and they're of course wanting to capitalize on his popularity, on his good season in Turkey, and are looking to get a decent price for him. Beşiktaş had, according to people from Oyogo in Portugal, had a 1.7 million euro offer rejected last week, and there was also a statement made by communications director of Guimarães Ribeiro last week to Orta Çizgi that Beşiktaş had indeed tabled an offer, but it was rejected alongside an offer from the MLS. And they said basically the offer was just not what we are wanting to get for the player right now, and thus far Beşiktaş have not made a new offer. However, yesterday evening Orta Çizgi did report that Beşiktaş have tabled a second offer. So it looks like things are heating up a little bit surrounding Tyler Boyd, and I just want to get your opinion on it, Kartal. How would you feel about him being the new guy on our right wing, replacing Ricardo Quaresma most likely?
Well, to start off with, I think he's a polar opposite to Ricardo Quaresma. Ricardo Quaresma is the type of winger that always likes to go down to the last line and make the cross. I think as time's went on, he's kind of started to rely on that far too much, because he's not as when he first played for Beşiktaş, and even the first couple of years of his second stint, he still had that ability to cut in all the time, take shots as well, but I think he's lost a bit of his speed, so he's kind of just rely on his crossing ability too much, whereas Boyd's a lot more direct. He always likes to cut inside, always looks towards goal, likes to play low crosses as well, and I think that's what modern football requires these days. I think the winger that goes down that last line and crosses it in every time is something that's kind of stuck in the past. I mean, especially if you look at us in the first half of the season, Quaresma, I think he had 11 assists in the first half of the season for us, but there's argument that 11 assists, that's a fantastic statistic, but when you think about it, he's making 40 crosses a game, it's not really that great.
I think a lot of his assists come from corners and set pieces too. I think his crossing ability is... I don't think you can knock his crossing ability, but it's...
Of course.
You know what the thing is, if you don't have a lot of bodies in the box, then the cross needs to be perfect. If you have 3-4 people in the box at the same time popping up at different key positions, far post, near post, penalty point, then a cross can be of lesser quality and cause a lot more havoc. So the problem, I think, isn't so much that Quaresma was crossing 40 times a game. I think the problem was that we just had too few bodies in the box. In the second half of the season, we saw that improve. Dorokan would pop up there more frequently. Laic was a lot more involved. We finally had a proper striker. I think in the first half of the season, you can't compare Beşiktaş in the first half of the season to the second half of the season in terms of that. I think Quaresma, if he would have been motivated, if he wouldn't have been an absolute misfit in the first half of the season, with the Malmo red card, and then in the start of the second half of the season, the Erzurum red card. I think if he would have still had, if he was still there and giving 100%, I think he could have been valuable in the second half of the season, because with more bodies in the box, I think his crossing could have been more valuable. But they're definitely very different types of players, and there's no secret that Quaresma, he's going on 36 years old. In September, he'll be 36. He's not gonna be our main guy forever. I think that time has passed. We've said that a couple of times already, multiple times already on this podcast. I know everyone's kind of clinging to that he can still be a super sub, or he can still be valuable.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm sure he could be, but his mentality, his personality, I don't think it allows it. I don't think he's willing to take a super sub role. I don't think he's willing to take a pay cut. I don't think he's gonna fit into that role without a pay cut. So I think it's best for him, after a very great second stint, fantastic second stint in the Beşiktaş. I think it's just the best to call it quits, move on, go to MLS, man. I've said this so many times. I think Quaresma could rip up the MLS. I still think he has plenty of quality for that. Yes, he doesn't have that explosive ability anymore that he had in his 20s, but he's still relatively fast. He's not super fast anymore, but he's not like he's an old man that can barely walk like some players in their 30s. I mean, Quaresma is still extremely fit, in peak physical condition. Of course, he's lost some pace and he's lost some explosive power, but he's still a great athlete. But I think, we can all agree that the Quaresma era is kind of over, and we need to look toward newer things. And then I think the question is, our new coach, Abdullah Avci, he works with a certain system, and what fits into that system. And Tyler Boyd might fit that mold, because like you and I have just pointed out, he does have some similarities with Edin Visca, so he might actually be the ideal signing for Beşiktaş this coming summer. So I for one really hope it happens. I think it's not just a good signing of a player that's not even 25 yet, is a US international, knows the league, has some experience in Europe, because he has had, not this season, but the previous season under another coach, he played plenty for Vitória Guimarães. I think he played like 30 games or something in the Portuguese league. So he has experience at the top level. He's a good footballer. He's always gotten his goal. He's got the nose to get the goal. I really want to see him at Beşiktaş. And like George D. Metellus pointed out on Football Al last week, I think it'll be also a good marketing ploy for Beşiktaş to sign a US international, because it may actually increase interest in Beşiktaş in the United States.
Yeah, especially now we've got that TV deal over there as well. You know what I mean? Like they're showing a couple of Super League games a week in the US, and I think you'd get a lot more interest if they had one of their own playing in all of these games, and that's what Tyler Boyd would be playing. You know what I mean? Like, we'd expect him to be in the top 11 week in, week out, so it'd definitely be advantageous. Another thing I want to talk about regarding Boyd is, in our group chat, people have been saying, he could end up being another Larin, but I think you can't make that comparison, I feel, because
he's not from the MLS.
Yeah, for a start, he's not from MLS. He's actually from New Zealand. And see when you just watch Kyle Larin play and you watch him play, like this, even in games where Kyle Larin was scoring the hat-tricks, they all had doubt in our head, because it just the way he carries himself.
Lucky deflection.
Just his technique and the way he carries himself. It didn't seem like he was cutting the bill, despite maybe being effective in that game against Sivas at the end of last season, and then the game against the team from the Faroe Islands. Their name eludes me just now.
Torshavn.
Was it Torshavn? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Torshavn. Uh, like he was effective in those games. He was scoring hat tricks, but at the same time, from what I was actually seeing, like from the way he moves, his ball control, his technique, you could kind of tell something was lacking. Whereas when you watch Boyd, I don't like hype him up too much, but it just kind of looks like the finished article to me. He's got a great touch. He's an excellent dribbler, good pass, excellent finisher. You know, I mean, it seems like he's got all the attributes kind of required to be a success at Beşiktaş.
Yeah, and I think the most important part as well, something that I heard a lot of American pundits point out lately was as he was playing for the U.S. national team. And what you need to realize is that for them, he was a major revelation too, because nobody really knew Tyler Boyd before he started playing those games now for the U.S. national team, because he didn't play in the MLS like we all already pointed out, so they were really unfamiliar with him. And they were one of the biggest things that they really liked about him is his confidence, his willingness, his just the confidence in himself to have a shot. Something that I think we lack sometimes, like just a player that just like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna have a shot now. I'm just gonna see and test the goalkeeper. That's something Tyler Boyd is definitely capable of doing too, and he scored two really nice goals actually already at the Gold Cup, which should definitely be checked out if you haven't already. But yeah, I don't think the comparison with Kyle Larin is applicable. I think this is a guy that's already proven at Ankaragücü that he is of decent quality. Of course, the question is that step from Ankaragücü to Beşiktaş. It's always that's always a difference there. This going to a big club is always difficult, even if it is within the same league. But I think he's gutsy enough. I think he has plenty of technical ability. I mean, he's no Quaresma, but he has what he needs, I think, in terms of technique. And I think he just has a lot of ability. His cross is decent too. I think he's just an all-around decent winger that's gonna do well, I hope, if we end up getting him. I just hope it does end up happening. But interesting point there. You pointed out Kyle Larin, and that's something we don't have in our notes here, but actually it should be pointed out. He is probably, this has not yet been officially confirmed, I think, but he's more than likely off to Zulte Waregem of Belgium. And that's something I'm very happy about, actually, because I have been saying to Sinan for a while now, he should really go to the Eredivisie in Holland or to Belgium in the Pro League. I think it's going to do wonders for him. Zulte Waregem are the exact correct size of club for him to go and develop. They have an option to buy. According to TRT, it's 2.5 million. So we don't actually know what the potential transfer fee would be for him, 2.5 or 4 million. But at the end of the day, it's important that he gets games. I believe Zulte Waregem are obligated to play him in at least 20 matches, so that's positive. They will also be paying 1 million of his 1.6 million salary. I believe Murat Özcan reported that. So that's positive too. That's another million off of our wage bill, so that's good. So Kyle Larin is off to Zulte Waregem more than likely. I hope he does well there and can develop. I don't think he will come back and be a Beşiktaş player, but if he can have a good season there, either Zulte Waregem can buy him from us, or we can sell him to another club perhaps. So that's Kyle Larin. Yeah, not much to be said. I don't know if you have anything to say about Larin going off to Waregem, Kartal?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very beneficial for him, and also us, because I don't see him as a Beşiktaş quality player, but I'm just hoping that he scores a lot of goals there so we can sell him for whether that be 2 million or 4 million.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I think 4 million's a long shot. I don't see that happening, to be honest. Yeah. But 2 million, that's very possible, and if he's successful there and we're able to sell him for that amount of money, then that's great. We've made a profit of someone that was kind of deemed as being surplus to requirements, and that's you can't ask for anything more than that.
I think if he scores like 15 goals or something, they're definitely going to try to retain him. And you know what? I mean, for us, if we just get his contract off our wage bill, that would be huge. And if we can recuperate that 1.8 million that we paid for him, that would be fantastic too. So let's move on. Another rumor, we already talked about it a little bit earlier. Shinji Kagawa, he might actually be coming back for next season. This depends largely on, he still has it on his bucket list of going to Spain. Will that happen? If it doesn't, it was reported, I believe, again, auch der Chizige Murat Özün, I think, reported that in July the club would be sitting down with Kagawa to talk about next season. But also, Mr. Yücel from Başakşehir Koleji was in Japan this past week, so rumors also surfaced that he might actually already be in Japan to speak to Kagawa. Of course, we're in July now, so who knows? I don't know how you feel about that, Kartal. Do you think Shinji Kagawa is a player we should try to retain for this coming season? Everyone knows what I feel. I'm a big fan, of course.
Yeah. What I feel about Kagawa is obviously he's an excellent footballer. No one can doubt he's a talent there. But I feel as if that should not be the priority. The priority should be getting a left wing or right winger, left and right fullbacks. I see DM, they could eventually, with the view of them eventually stepping into the role of a much loved club legend, Atiba Hutchinson, and maybe a centre back as well. We kind of compete with the likes of Miran, you know what I mean? So someone to push Miran. So I think Kagawa would be a great transfer, but we need to address our other issues first.
Yeah, for sure. It's not a top priority in terms of what we need, really, but I think he could be of great value nevertheless. And it also depends, Abdullah Avci is supposedly keen on getting him for next season. How is he going to want to use him? Let's not forget he used those types of footballers a lot at Başakşehir too. For years he played with Doka, Mosoro, Visca. The past couple of years, of course, Mosoro was still an instrumental part, and I think you could probably say Mosoro is kind of a poor man's Kagawa. So I could see Kagawa fit into Avci's plan. So at the end of the day, maybe he's not gonna play with a traditional left winger. Maybe he moves Laic out left, but has him cut in a lot more. I don't know what his plan is, but I just know if Avci says I want this guy, then I think get him. If he wants to come, of course. Let's move on. You just said something about a replacement for Atiba, and there's two names that we've been linked with recently, and that's, of course, Azubuike and Bachiru. Nothing new in terms of Azubuike, but there has been reported interest of Istanbul Başakşehir for him, so I don't know what's going on there from our perspective, but if Başakşehir are going to swoop in, that would be one less option for us. Then, of course, there's Bashiru of Malmö. We saw him, of course, in the Europa League against us. He's 29 already, if I'm not mistaken. Seems a little old to get a player from a league like Sweden. I don't know. I mean, I checked his career trajectory. He's never really played in a top league, and he's already 29. Seems like a bit of it's more like a Konyaspor player, if you know what I mean. I don't know, maybe he comes and he's gonna be great. Of course, Atiba Hutchinson has a good history in Scandinavia, played a large portion of his career there, but he also, of course, had a stint at PSV, played plenty of Champions League football and stuff like that, so that's something that Bashiru doesn't have. I don't know how you feel about this one.
One thing I do remember, I was thinking, that number 7 looks awful good when they were playing against us. Number 7 was Bashiru. Seems like he controls the midfield. It does seem like just a younger version of Atiba Hutchinson, maybe not of that same quality, but he looks a good player. And you were talking about his age there, Ken. It's 29, but you need to remember, Atiba was 30 when we signed him. And I remember when they first signed Atiba, thinking, not another 30-year-old. I mean, obviously, I wasn't thinking he was going to.
He came from PSV, though. That's different. There's a big difference from Malmo. He had a couple of years at PSV under his belt. He had played for Copenhagen in Denmark, played Champions League with them, played Champions League with PSV. It's different for me than Bashiru, who's played now 3 seasons at Malmo, and I don't know, I don't even remember the clubs he's played before. I mean, obviously that doesn't necessarily mean that he isn't capable of playing for Beşiktash. Some players are just late bloomers. That could very well be the case here. But those are just things that kind of worry me. But I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, of course, as long as he's not too pricey. I mean, if he would be like a free agent and you don't pay him like a silly wage, like let's say you pay him an Atiba type wage, $1 million a year, I'd definitely be up for that and to give it a try. But I don't know what his contract situation is with Malmo right now. It's not a player that I would fork out a lot of money for.
Yeah, it'd have to be on the cheap. I wouldn't pay any more than $1 million for him. I think as a bookie, I think he's probably my preferred candidate for that position because he's got experience in the league and he's done very well in the Super League. You know what I mean? He's relatively young. He's 24, if I'm not mistaken, as a rookie.
Yeah, I believe he is. They're kind of the same profile types of players. They're both really small. I think both are like 1.70 meters or something.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. I mean, you're trading off. Well, not that Atiba is great in the air, but still some when the opposition goalkeeper kicks the ball up the field or your own goalkeeper kicks the ball up the field, you need some players that are capable of combating in the air for that ball. So I kind of prefer to have some height there because we already have Laic, who is like, I don't know, 182, and then Ozzy, who's like 180, and we don't have a lot of height in our midfield, so I don't know, I kind of want that defensive midfielder to have a little bit of physicality to him, a little bit of height, so he can win those aerial duels as well. But at the end of the day, if they're really good footballers and they make up for that lack of height with other qualities, then it doesn't really matter. But it's interesting that we're going for that profile of Kante, so to speak.
Yeah, because you're trying to try and find someone in the mould of Atiba in the way sort of that kind of tall, lean build. Yeah, because Medell's, the two of them are a similar build to Medell, short and stocky. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about the aerial duels, but Gary Medell's a fantastic example of a player that's very short, but he does amazing in the aerial duels. Yep. Like, people think, you can't play him at centre back. He's very small, but he does great when he plays it. I think when it comes to Medell, even Medell's better at centre back than he is in the midfield. I think in the midfield he kind of gets lost. You know what I mean? His positional awareness isn't too good, which is maybe Atiba's best quality. But when he's playing at the back, that's not really as much of an issue.
Yeah, it's definitely true. So you can't judge a book by its cover. Then the last rumor that's kind of been surfacing lately, that's Lionel Di Placido from Argentina. This was reported as a done deal back in Argentina. I think this is an agent trying to get interest in his client. I don't think this is actually something we should be paying too much attention to. We've seen it a couple of times. Remember Emmanuel Mas? Remember we were supposedly super interested in him. That I spoke to his agent back then, I believe. I do think that that was also kind of just them getting his name out there, and it paid off because Trabzonspor ended up signing him. So you know what? Maybe Trabzon will end up signing Lionel Di Placido. What ever happened to Emmanuel Mas? Because he was pretty good actually when he came to Trabzon, but I think they sold him relatively quick, didn't they?
I think he went back to South America, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe it was back to Argentina.
It's possible. So let's just look. I think that's pretty much it in terms of transfer rumors news. Like I said, there really isn't all that much to report on right now. But we just wanted to get an episode out there for you guys. We know that when you're commuting to work or whatever, it's always fun to have something to listen to. So before we call it quits for this episode, for episode 75, we are just quickly going to talk a little bit about players that we might want to see leave this summer. Of course, Tolga, Mustafa Pektim, Gökhan Töre, and Adriano all have left already. Their contracts expired. Adriano still did have a talk with Abdullah Avci, but his demands were very high. I think he's at a point in his career where he just wants to go back to Brazil, and unless it's for money that he simply can't refuse, I don't think he's willing to stay in Europe anymore. So those guys are gone already, but then there's a couple of more guys that are potentially on their way out. Most notably, of course, Ricardo Quaresma, but also Jermaine Lens is being mentioned in the media. Enzo Rocco also being talked about as he might be on his way out. Of course, he didn't get many chances from Şenol Güneş. Maybe Abdullah Avci says, no, you know what, I want to see him in training camp first before I let him go. Then, of course, Gary Medel is a potential guy to exit. He's playing at the Copa America right now, having a good tournament for Chile. He's captaining Chile, of course. Gary Medel, the main thing with him, I think, is he's still very useful for the team, but he's just on a very high contract, 2.3 million a year. So I don't think that a squad depth player or utility player is worth that type of money right now for us. And then someone who's being talked about in the media too is Mirin, Isimat Mirin, as in terms of he might be leaving. So quickly, your opinion on some of these guys, Kartal. For example, Mirin, how do you feel about him potentially being sold already after just 6 months?
Mirin's been getting a lot of hate, a lot of unwarranted hate, if you ask me. Whenever I've watched him, apart from maybe the Fenerbahce game where you can tell he's very nervous. I mean, it's his first derby in a new country. I mean, well, it's probably very different from anything he's ever experienced before. So, understandably, he was nervous in that game and he was making mistakes. But I think to look at it as a whole, I was very happy with Mirin. He's confident on the ball. I mean, he's always willing to stick his foot in, you know what I mean, to make a challenge. For example, a lot of people are criticising Mirin after the Galatasaray game, but I thought, especially in the first half, Mirin was maybe even our best player in the park. I mean, he made a lot of very good challenges in that first half of that game.
Yeah, I think he gets a lot of unfair criticism. It's kind of like how Karius got blamed for every goal he conceded, basically, in the first half of the season. I think it's just a typical scapegoat mentality that Turkish fans really seem to have. There has to be someone to blame. I mean, let's think back at Duško Tosic's first 6 months at Beşiktaş. He scored like 2 very critical own goals, and you know everyone was hating on him. Let's think about Domagoj Vida's first 6 months at the club. People were hating on him too. I mean, gotta give a guy, especially defenders and goalkeepers, they need some time to settle. I'm not ready to write Mirin off. I don't even think that it's warranted at this point. He hasn't done anything to me that warrants writing him off. And even if he did, I think he still deserves a couple of months. But plus, he's one of our lowest paid defenders if you think about it. I mean, well, lowest paid. I mean, he's making like 1.2 million a year. That's not one of our bigger contracts. I mean, if we're gonna bring in a new defender, it's gonna have to be from a notably higher quality and then you're paying a lot more money probably. And the same, you know, I kind of feel the same way about Enzo Rocco because we barely have seen him either. He just got written off straight away by Şenol Güneş, and Şenol has done that to so many defenders already. I mean, he wrote off almost. I mean, Alexi Delgado he wrote off after like 5 games. Matej Mitrovic he wrote off after like 2 or 3 games. Aleksandar Milosevic he wrote off after 1 game. You know, Domagoj Vida, he was ready to write him off too. He had a really bad way with defenders. And if you look at what Abdullah Avci has done with defenders at Başakşehir, how he has morphed a very average defensive midfielder in Atama into a decent central defender, I think a guy like Rocco and a guy like Mirin especially could definitely have a career resurgence or at least a resurgence of their careers at Beşiktaş under him. So I don't think it's worth writing either of those guys off. I'm not saying that we should keep both of them. Both of them are obviously foreigners. Both of them are on 1.2 million a year, and while it's not a top contract at Beşiktaş, we should probably get rid of one of them. But yeah, if we would get rid of one of them, I think I would probably opt for Rocco right now. He's a Chilean international, I believe. He is at the Copa America. I'm not sure if he's playing anything, but I think he's someone we could probably sell and get our money back for. I mean, in January, I believe Levante or something were in for him and were willing to pay, but we didn't let him go for some odd reason. But yeah, I don't know how you feel about Enzo Rocco.
I thought Rocco should leave. We didn't see much, but from what I saw, I didn't see that potential. With Mirin, I see that potential. Like, you were talking about how Tosic and Vida, how they weren't They didn't do too well in the first 6 months. I think out of those three players, Miriam had the best first 6 months. He had a better first 6 months than Vida. He had a much better first 6 months than Tosic did. And you're also talking about how Shell Gurish was very quick at writing off centre backs. I think you missed maybe the best example of that. I think Rodolfo, what happened to him was shocking. I thought, could see that first 6 months he had with us before he had that ACL tear. I thought he had a great partnership with Sangudu.
Yeah,
I was a big fan.
That's really good. But and then. Yeah, sorry. I think you know what you often have with players who have ACL injuries, they come back and they're kind of scared to get hurt again. I think that's what Rodolfo had, and that's something we've seen other players have in the past too. And I just think that Chanel Gunesh is not able to rehabilitate a guy like that. I don't know. Chanel has been, in my opinion, has been very bad with defenders, especially. I think he has ruined careers. I mean, I think like a guy like Alexander Milosevic, I think he could have had a decent career. I'm not saying that he could have been a Beşiktaş defender, but I think he could have been like a Konyaspor level defender. I think he could have been had a relatively decent career. I think Şenol Güneş kind of just basically pulled the plug on his career. I don't know. I'm really unhappy in how we handled so many of our defenders. I mean, except for Marcelo, there's not a single one I think he handled really well. And that's just because Marcelo had a very good debut, so to speak.
Yeah, moving on to the other players we're talking about leaving, I think Quaresma, I'm a huge Quaresma fan. Like, see the first time he left, when he cancelled his contract, I remember almost crying in school, in our biology class, when Quaresma left the first time. But I think now it is time to part ways, and really I want it to happen in as nice a way possible, but sadly it seems in Turkish football we're not capable of sending people off in good terms. You know, there was a whole kind of thing with the old fanatic quotes from Fikret Orban, which were obviously BS, but Quaresma definitely took them literally and made a post on his Instagram about it, and then he unfollowed Beşiktaş and then he followed us again. There was a kind of big scandal going on. But I know it's time for him to go. His wages too high. I don't think he's really interested in Beşiktaş anymore. It seems like he really wants to move back to Portugal. But the issue with him, I think he's in limbo a wee bit, because I don't think there's any interest in Portugal. So you're saying earlier on, if Quaresma is going to go anywhere, it should be the MLS, because he's still got the ability to tear up there. And I think he'd be huge in the MLS. I think he'd get a lot of fans. You know what I mean? Like, he could be like a marquee player for one of the teams over there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think, you know what, the thing with Quaresma is just that he's I don't know if he's a drama queen. I think he just, I don't know, people are kind of accusing him of wanting attention. I don't know, I think the guy's just been real unhappy. I think, you know, he hasn't been getting paid, and he hasn't been getting that appreciation. You know, I think the thing with Quaresma always has been, I'm sure there's been periods at Beşiktaş where he didn't get paid, but he's always had the love from the fans. But he's kind of been losing that the last season for sure, and even before that, the decline was already starting, where, you know, the crowds were very split on Quaresma, but this season especially, I think he's lost most of the fans' support. And I think, you know, when he doesn't have that anymore and he's not getting paid, it's very difficult for him to be happy. And he's just going to lash out, and that's what happened there. And it's very unfortunate, because for me, Quaresma is a club legend. Not saying that he deserves a statue or anything, but I think what he's done for the club in a positive light should not be undone by some of the more unfortunate things in this season. But I think for him it's clearly time to move on. I really wish it could have been done in a much better way, on a high, but that's just something in Turkey. I don't really remember a single player that went out on a high. Everyone kind of seems to have gone out on sour note. I mean, look at how Alex left Fenerbahce. Look at how Sergen left Beşiktaş the second time. No, that's actually not true. Shifo Mehmet left on a high. That's one of the few ones I can really remember. But yeah, it's just a shame. But I think the thing with Shifo Mehmet was he was ready to go. He was ready to call it quits himself. I don't think Ricardo Quaresma is ready for it yet. So then it's more difficult, of course. I don't think Alex was ready for it yet because he still went on and played for Coritiba for 2 more seasons. Anyway, we're going off track a little bit, but Quaresma definitely, I think that's someone. I don't see him fit into the Abdullah Afci system anyway. I think he could definitely go. Jermaine Lens has a high contract, I believe 2.3 million a year. I think that as a player, he could definitely fit into Abdullah Afci's style. He's hardworking, he's quick. He's good on the counter. I think he could definitely work under Abdullah Afci. I also think he kind of suffered from low confidence, low morale under Şenol Güneş because he never really felt appreciated by the coach. I think all that could change. That said, he's 31 years old. Supposedly Olympiacos and Panathinaikos are interested in him. And Beşiktaş won 3 million for him. What would you do? He still has a contract until 2022. That would make him 34. He's on 2 point something a million a year. I think a smart man sells him, even though he could still be of value for the team.
I'd definitely sell Lens for 3 million in a heartbeat. Not that I think he's worthless. I think he's got value. He can be the engine of the team. You know what I mean? Like all the running back and forth. But I don't think you pay someone 2.2 million just to be an engine of the team. I think maybe if we say on a million, 1 million, 1.2, keep him. You know what I mean? He could add value, but I think at this wage, it's just kind of it's affecting our books very negatively. And I think if the right money's there and he's happy to go, I think we should part ways.
Yeah, fully agree with you. I think that's covered it. Did you already give your 2 cents on Gary Medel?
If I haven't already, I'll just add in that I think Medel should leave as well.
Same thing, really, on Lens, maybe.
Yeah, his first season was phenomenal. I love Medel. 17-18, I thought, especially in the second half when he was actually playing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we had the usual Şenol Güneş thing where the first half of the season he didn't really play much at all. But when he actually started playing, lost a bit of weight, I thought it was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And I think you and Sinan on the podcast last year, on the episode where you kind of rounded up the season, you both kind of had him as a kind of bright light of the campaign. Because it really was. But I think this year, along with Quaresma and a lot of the team, they've not been getting their wage on time. I think that's been a problem for him. Mm-hmm. So I kind of think he's lost interest in Beşiktaş. So and also at that wage at 2.2 million.
Yeah, 2.3 even.
2.3 even. I think it's, if we can find a seller, he definitely needs to go. If we can't, we need to find a way to kind of negotiate some sort of wage cut. But I don't see Gary Medel taking a wage cut either. So I think the best thing to do is just call it quits and hopefully get a few million and send them off to. I've heard West Ham's interested, so hopefully get a few million off of West Ham, and that'd be ideal.
Yeah, I think a guy like Medel would be crazy to take a pay cut. I mean, he could definitely get a decent contract elsewhere. You know, Ricardo Quaresma at the tail end of his career, I mean, I'm sure he could still get a contract at the MLS, a good contract there, or maybe somewhere else. But I don't think he wants to ever go back to the Middle East. I don't think he wants to go to China. MLS is something I could see appeal to him, so that's what I'm always pushing for, because I could really see that appeal to a guy like him. But, you know, I mean, I could see him on paper, if the relationship between him and the club hadn't soured, if the relationship between him and the fans hadn't soured, I could definitely see him take a pay cut to be able to finish his career at Beşiktaş. But I don't think that's possible anymore at this point. But Gary Medel still has a couple of years left in him. I think that he would be crazy to take a pay cut. I think he can go make the same amount of money he makes with us elsewhere, so he would be crazy. Hopefully he garners some interest from his Copa America performance with Chile, and we can get a decent fee for him, like you said. So I think that's pretty much everything we wanted to cover in this episode. Kartal, thank you very much for joining me. And once again, people, follow him. You can follow him on Twitter. I think it's just Kartal Ogur. It's
Kartal L-O. Kartal O was already taken, so it's Kartal L O. So that's Kartal Logur. The L, my middle name's Liam. That's my Scottish name. That's my Scottish name. That's where the L comes from.
So it's just okay. I thought it was EL, like El Luchador.
No.
Okay. So you can follow Kartal on Twitter, and of course his account, Turkish Football News, at TF News 1923, spelled out with letters, not full words. So give that account a follow. I highly recommend it. And of course, if you're a regular listener to the Black Eagles podcast, but you haven't checked out the Football All Turca podcast yet, go and check it out this week. We interviewed Samantha Johnson. Kartal, did you already listen to it, or was it Özcan that listened to it already? I think it was Özcan.
Özcan, I've listened to half of it. I'll listen to the second half later on. Okay. It's definitely, so far it's been very interesting.
Yeah.
So
it's a great story that Samantha has, for sure.
I also advise you go and give that a listen, because that's great. And the Football Turca podcast as a whole, I think you're doing an excellent job with that one, Can. You're doing as with this as well.
Thank you very much, Kartal. Much appreciated.
No worries, man. No worries, man.
And thank you, people, for listening to this episode. And again, sorry that it took 3 weeks for us to put out a new episode. I promise that the next episode will be out sooner for your commute next week. And we'll see you again next week on Baba, çok babasın, çok harikasın, çok güzelsin, harika.